Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to go over how we can create a beginner-friendly FPS game inside Unreal Engine 5. So as we can see, I'm currently not holding a gun, but if I go up to this gun, I'll get it, and if I click the left mouse button, I can shoot this gun. In the world there are 5 targets, some of them are moving and some of them are standing still. If I click one of them, it explodes and my counter score goes up. So let me just hit all the targets. And you can also see there's a timer in the top left hand of the screen, and this is basically tracking how long it takes me to shoot all the targets. So if I just shoot this one, and then this one, when I shoot all the targets, it says I win, and then it will tell me my time, which is 37 seconds. I think I can do a bit better than that, so I can click restart, pick up my gun, and if I quickly shoot all the targets. So this time I did it in 6 seconds. So with this, we're just going to create a little fun FPS game where we can go around and shoot some targets. To get started, head over to the Unreal Project browser and go to the game section. Once you're here, select the first person, as we're going to be building our game using this template. And then we're also going to use some of the starter content, so make sure you just check this box where it says starter content. Then just give your project an appropriate name. I've called mine the FPS shooter, and now we're ready to get started. So just click that create, and once that's loaded, we should be in the first person template, and this will just include the basic first person character with a gun, which we can go up, and once we have it, we can click the left mouse button to start shooting some projectiles. So we're going to be creating a target shooter game, so the first thing we're going to do is create some targets for our player to shoot. So we're going to be accessing our content drawer quite a lot, so if we just go to window and then go content browser and select content browser 1, this will just make it so it's permanently here. And then what we're going to do is just right click and create a new folder and just call this target. And we're going to import a target model inside of this folder. I'm just going to open it up. And I have this target model which I downloaded. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description of where you can download it. And what we're going to do is just select this target model and drag it into our target folder and just click import. Once we've done that, we're going to create our first blueprint, which is going to be this target blueprint. And when we hit it, we'll give our player a score. So if we just head over to the first person folder and then go to the blueprints, we just want to right click and select blueprint class and select actor, an object that can be placed or spawned in the world. And we just want to call this target, and then we just want to double click and open it up. Inside of this target, we want to go to add and look for static mesh. And the static mesh we want to select is going to be the target model that we just imported. And we can just compile this and then drag it into our scene to see how big it is. So our target model is quite big. An easy way to scale down models is if we just select the model and select this anchor lock so that it looks like this. And then if say I change its scale to be 0.3, it will scale it down in all its axis, and that'll make the target model a bit smaller. So that looks like a more appropriate size. And then next, we're going to make it so that when we hit this target, it disappears. So what we can do is just go to the event graph, and then we're going to right click and look for event hit. And the way this node will work is whenever another actor bumps into this object, or say this object bumps into another actor, it will run this event. And event hit, basically going to destroy this actor. So now if I go compile and close this, if I go play, and let's say I just jump into this, it will destroy it. Or if I just go play and pick up my gun and then click the left mouse button, if I shoot it, it will disappear. Although we only want it so that our projectile can destroy this actor, because we don't want other things to be able to destroy this target. An easy way to achieve that effect is if we go to our target, what we can do is on this event hit, we can check the other actor that hits it. And what we can do is just drag off this other actor and make sure that it has a tag. So if I look for has tag, actor has tag, and we'll make sure that the actor that it bumps into has a certain tag, and only if it has that certain tag will destroy the actor. So that tag is going to be projectile. So under tag, I'm just going to type in projectile, and then off of this return value, I'm going to look for branch, and only if this is true, I will destroy this actor. So I'll just go compile. And then if I head over to my BP first person projectile and then just select it, under details, if I look for tag, I'm going to just go add, and I'm going to make it have the tag projectile. So now only my projectile will be able to destroy this target. So I go play, and let's say I try and jump into it like I did before, it still stays there, which is good. If I pick up my gun and shoot it, it disappears. So nice. Now we've created a target. Currently, right now, our target is a bit boring, so it just stands in the same position. What we're going to do is write some code so that our target will basically move between two different points. That way, the player has to like aim a bit better if they want to hit the target. So to set that up, we can go to our target blueprint, and we just want to go to add and look for interp to movement. So this will give our target some type of movement. Next, once we're here, we're going to go to the details and go to the control and just click control points and just add two elements. These control points basically represent where in the world our target is going to move between. So we're just going to have 2 points because we only want our target to move between two different points. Next, we want to go to behavior and just change the behavior type to be ping pong. Right now, the default setting is one shot, and this will just basically mean that the target will move from this location to this location and then will stop. We want to change this to be ping pong. That way, our target point will move from this location to this location and then it'll move back and then back. So we just want to change that to be ping pong. Next, we're going to go to our variables and just click add variable and call this location1 and just change this variable type to be a vector and just go compare. That way it can have an X, Y, and Z coordinate. So I'll just click here and it can be a specific location inside of our world. We want to be able to edit this location. So we just want to change this variable to be instance editable. We also want to just change this to be show 3D widget. That way we can physically see it in the world. And we just want to right click on this variable and click duplicate and call this location 2. And then we want to create one more type of variable. So just click add variable and just call this duration and change this variable to be a float and go compile. And this float will basically represent how long it will take our target to move between location 1 and location 2. Let's just make this have a default value of 2. And we also want this to be instance editable. That way you can change it in the world if you wanted to do that. Next, we want to go to our construction script. And our construction script will run basically as soon as we place our target inside of the level. Everything in the event graph will basically only run once our game has loaded. So in the construction script, what we're going to do is just drag in our interp to movement and just drag up here and look for set control points. So we're basically going to tell the game what we want our control points to be. So remember here, we made 2 control points. And to do that, we can just drag up here and look for make array and just add 2 elements. And then from here, we just want to drag up the 0 and look for make interp to control point and just drag in our location 1. And now our location 1 will be our first control point. And then we just want to do the same for location 2. So just drag up here and look for make interp to control point and drag in location 2. And this will be our second control point. Then to control how fast it will move between these 2 points, we can just drag off our interp to movement and look for set duration. And we'll set the duration to be whatever we set inside of our duration variable. So just look for get duration and hook that up here. And we can connect this into here and click compile. So now we can basically test this out. So if I just select my target, you should be able to see location 2. And if say I just move it here, and if I just select my location 1 and say I move it up a bit, and then if I go here under my default, if I change this to be, for example, 5 seconds, and I go play, we can see that my target basically starts to move, and it'll move between those 2 points, location 1 and location 2, and it'll take 5 seconds to do so. Now I can just click here, and now I have to aim a bit better to hit the target. So nice. With that, we have made a moving target. Although maybe you want it so that some targets don't move. So what we're going to do is basically create another variable and call it can move. We'll make this variable type to be a boolean and instance editable and just go compile. And what we'll do at the start of this construction script, we're going to have a branch, and the condition for this branch is going to be the can move variable. We're going to look for get can move, and if get can move is true, then we'll just set up all this code and it'll allow our target point to move. If this variable is false, then our target point won't move at all. Let's test that this all works. So I'm going to drag in another target, and I'm just going to leave the can move unchecked. That way it can't move. And for this one, just check this can move. That way it can move. And now I go play. We should see that target point basically moves and that target point doesn't move. So with that, we have set up two types of target points, one that moves and one that doesn't move. Hello, so next we're going to create some UI, and this UI is going to display two things. The first thing it's going to display is how many targets there are in the level, and the second thing the UI is going to display is how many targets that we've hit and destroyed inside of the level. So to set that all up, what we're going to do is head over to our first person character and just add a new variable and just call this targets, and just change this variable type to be an integer, and then add another variable and call this targets hit. With this done, we can close this, and then we want to head over to our target blueprint. Then we want to head over to the event graph, and what we want to do is event begin play. We can just right click and look for get player character. So we're going to get a reference to our player character, and from this return value we want to drag up here, look for cast to the BP first person character, and then what we're going to do is just right click on this as BP first person character and promote it to a variable. That way we'll be able to reference the first person character if we need to, and then from here we can just get the amount of targets that they have, and then just drag up here and look for increment int. This will basically increase this number by 1. And then we want to drag off this as first person character, look for set targets, and then just hook this into here. And now if I just go to the first person character and go right click and go event begin play, and just drag in my targets and look for print string, this number should be 2. So I go play. We can see that in the top left corner of the game, it print strings 2, which is correct as we have 2 targets inside of our level. So now that we've created this, we're ready to create some UI which will display this in a more nice way. So inside of this folder, I'm just going to right click and go user interface and select widget blueprint. And then we'll select user widget, and let's just call this our player HUD, and we can double click and open it up. And we want to go to the palette and look for canvas panel and just drag this into the player HUD. And then we want to look for a horizontal box and just drag this and place this somewhere inside the right corner. And we just want to anchor this to the top right corner. This anchor will just basically help it so that everything displayed inside this horizontal box will be on the right corner of the screen. Once we've done this, we then just want to look for some text and drag 3 pieces of text inside of this horizontal box. This first piece of text, we're going to make it show how many targets the player has hit. This second piece of text, we just want to change this to be a slash so that there's a divider. And this third piece of text, we're going to make this display how many targets there are inside of the level. So an easy way to do this is to head over to the event graph, and what we can do is just go to our target, and we can just copy this bit where we create a reference to our first person character. So I'll just select and press Ctrl C, and then go to the player HUD. I'm going to go to event construct. Event construct is basically what will happen as soon as the HUD is displayed on the screen. So as soon as the HUD is displayed on the screen, we're going to create a reference to the first person character. Just right click on this and create a variable. And then because we've done this, if we go to the designer and just go compile, if I select this text block, I can now go bind, and then we can reference the as BP first person character variable that we made. And from here, we can get the number of targets in the level. So I'm just going to select this. And then for here, we just want to change this to be targets hit. So I go as BP first person character and then select targets hit. And then if I go compile and go play, Oh, we need to add our HUD to our first person character. I forgot to do that. So we go to our first person character. And event begin play, we can delete this after we've created a HUD now. And we can go create widget. And the widget is going to be the player HUD that we made. And just right click and promote this to a variable and call this player HUD. Oops, I spelled that wrong. Oh well. And then we can go add to viewport. And this will add the HUD to the viewport. And now we can compile and go play. We can see in the top right corner of the screen, it says 0 out of 2 because there are 2 targets and we've hit none of them. I'm actually going to make my HUD text a bit bigger. So I'm going to select all 3 of them and then go to font and then change the size to be like 50. So it is a lot bigger. And I'll just adjust my box. Next, we need to recognize when the player character has hit a target. So what we can do is go to our first person character, right click and add a custom event and call this hit target. So whenever our player character hits a target, we're going to call this event. And what we're going to do is get the target hit variable and just look for increment int. And then we're going to drag in the target hit variable and look for set target hit and just connect this here. And then the way we're going to make it call this event is if we go to our target, before we destroy that actor, after we've checked that this has been hit by a projectile, we can drag in our first person character reference and then call the hit target event inside of them. So that's the reason we made this first person character a variable. That way we can easily call this event. And now I go compile, close this and go play. If I pick up my gun, shoot this, that says 1 out of 2. If I shoot this, it says 2 out of 2. And I've kind of beat the game now. Next, we're going to make a win screen when the player character hits all the targets inside of the level. So to do this, I'm going to create another HUD. So I'm going to go user interface, widget blueprint, select user widget, and I'm just going to call this the win HUD. And then let's just double click and open it up. And inside of here, we just want to look for canvas panel and drag it inside of the win HUD. And then in this palette, we're going to look for some text. And I'm just going to anchor this to the center of the screen. Make the size of this 50. And then I'm going to make it say you win. And then under the palette, I'm also just going to look for a button. Make it a bit bigger. And we can also anchor this to the center of the screen. And we just want to look for some text. Drag it inside of this button. And we'll just make this text say restart. And if I click this button, it will restart the game. If I just select this button, if we scroll down and go unclicked, in order to make it restart the game, what we can do is just look for get current level name. So this node will get the current level name that we're in. Then we can just drag off here and look for open level by name and hook this up to here. And now if I go compile, and if we go to our BP first person character, on hit target, what we're going to do is check to see if the target hit number equals the target's number. And if this condition is true, we're going to call a do once. So that only does this once. And off of this do once, we just want to drag here and look for create widget. And this widget is going to be the win HUD. And we just want to add this to the viewport. And go compile. Now I go play, pick up my gun, shoot this. It says you won, and then I can click the restart button. So I actually can't click the restart button because I don't have a mouse. So on this you win, if we just go to the win HUD, event construct, we just want to right click and look for get player controller, and just look for set game UI, set input mode gaming UI. And then just drag off here and look for set show mouse cursor. This will make it so the mouse cursor is visible and we can click the button. And we also just want to go to our first person character and event begin play. Just right click and look for get player controller. And this time we just want to set game mode only. So set input mode game only. and then just drag up here and look for set, show mouse cursor, and just leave this unchecked. And this way it'll make it so that our mouse cursor is basically hidden in the game. So I go compile and go play, pick up my gun, shoot this, It says you win, add my mouse cursor, I can click restart, and then I'll start in the game again. So next, with our player HUD, to make this game a bit more exciting, I want to add a timer which will basically tell us how long it took us to hit all the targets in the game. So if we go to the player HUD, and I'm going to add another horizontal box, although this time it's going to be in the left corner. And inside this horizontal box, we want to have 3 pieces of text. So I'm going to look for text, and I'll just drag 3 pieces of text inside this horizontal box. Actually, I think we need to add one more piece of text. So this first text is going to display the amount of minutes that have taken place. This third text will be a colon, and this fourth text will display the amount of seconds that has passed inside of our game. So to display all of this, we want to go to our graph and create 2 new variables. The first one is going to be the seconds. We want this to be an integer, and the second variable is going to be minutes, and this will display the amount of minutes that have taken part in our game. And we just want to go to event construct. After we do all of this, we're going to look for set timer by event, and then we just want to right click on this return value and promote it to a variable. That way we can reference it if we need to. So I'll just call this timer event, and we just want to just drag off this event and look for add custom event, and we'll call this timer. And then we just want to check looping and then make the time of this 1. And the way the set timer by event will work is every 1 second it's going to call this event. And every 1 second, what we're going to do is get the amount of seconds that we have and look for increment int, and then we will set the amount of seconds to be that value. So I'll just hook this all up. And whenever our seconds equals 60, so we'll just drag there and look for equal, and then here we want this to be 60. So if the amount of seconds in our timer equals 60, what we're going to do is have a branch and set it so that the amount of seconds is 0. And then we are going to get our minutes and look for increment int, and then look for set minute, and we'll set it so that our minute increases by 1. Now let's go compile. For this one, I'm not going to just bind the second and minute, because if I do it that way, it's not going to display the time correctly. It's just going to show 1. I'll show you what I mean. So if I just change this to be second, so if I change this first one to be minutes and this second one to be seconds and go compile, you can see that there's no 0 in front of the 2. I want it so that there's like 2 numbers showing all the time. So in order to make that accurate, what we can do is just drag off the seconds and look for 2 text and select 2 text integer, click this little arrow, and then for this minimum integral digits, just change this to be 2, and we can just right click and promote this to a variable and call this seconds string. And I'm just going to move everything a bit back so it's a bit tidier to see, and we can hook this into here and this here, and then we're going to do the same thing here. So I'll just copy this load, paste it here, hook the value into here, and promote this to a variable and call this minutes string, and connect this to here. And now if I compile and go to my designer, I'm going to bind this to be the minute string, and I'll bind this to be the second string. Go compile and go play, and we can see that second has a 0 in front of it. So go 0, 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, 8, 0, 9, and 10. Okay, so next I want, when I beat the game, I want it to display the time that I've got. So to achieve that effect, we can go to the You Win HUD, and I'm just going to add a horizontal box Here, we will anchor this to the middle of the screen and have two pieces of text. The first piece of text is going to say your time is colon. So we'll look for your time is. Sorry, we'll type that in. And then this here will display the time that we've got. So whoops, we actually need to have 3 pieces of text. So I'll just drag in another 2. This middle piece of text will be a colon. And then we'll make this text display the amount of minutes that it took us. And we'll make this text display the amount of seconds it took us. So to do that, let's go to our graph. So let's create 2 more new variables. The first one is going to be called minutes string. And we'll change this to be text. And then the second one will be seconds string. And this will also be a text. With both of these variables, just click this expose on spawn, and you'll see why we're doing this in just 1 second. So just click compile. So it's just saying expose on spawn, but it's not instance editable. Okay, sorry. So for everything that we click expose on spawn, we also need to make it instance editable. So just do that and go compile. So you'll see why we did this now. If we go back to the BP first person character, if we go to the create your widget, if we just right click on this and go refresh nodes, you can see it has minute string and second string. So here we're going to feed in the data from our HUD so that this A Win Sceen knows what to display. So because we made a reference to our player HUD, what we can do is just drag it in and look for get minute string and hook this up here. And we can look for get second string and hook this up here. And then one more thing, before we call this do once event, we're going to pause our timer. And the way we're going to do that is if we head back to our player HUD and just right click, look for add custom event and call it pause timer. And to do that, we can just drag in our timer event and look for clear invalidate timer by handler. And this will just make it stop. And if we go compile, then if we head over to the first person character, and before this do once, and after this do once, we are going to drag in our player HUD and call the pause timer event. And then after we call the pause timer event, we will create the A Win HUD. So now let's go compile. And now let's see how long it takes me to hit 2 targets. So I'll get my gun, boom, boom. Okay, so if I just go to the A Win HUD, I forgot to bind this text. So I'm just going to bind this to be the minute string and this to be the second string. So now go compile and let's see how long it takes me to hit 2 targets. Boom, boom. So it took me 2 seconds to hit 2 targets. Nice. So I can click restart and let's just test it's working. So I'll take a bit longer. So it took me 5 seconds. Nice. So with this, hopefully you can place some tiles all over around the map. Maybe some of them will be moving, maybe some of them will be standing still, and you'll have kind of a cool map. So with our targets, there's one more thing I want to do. We just go to our target and go edit target. Before we destroy the target, at the start of this tutorial, I made it so that we install the starter content. That is because when we hit a target, before we destroy it, we want to look for spawn emitter at location. And the emitter is going to be the explosion emitter. That way there's a kind of cool effect when we hit the target. And where we want this to spawn, just right click and look for get actor location and hook this into here. And for scale, just make this 2 in all its axes. That way we have kind of a big explosion. So if I click here, shoot this, we can see it explodes, shoot this and it explodes. And it's also kind of visually more clear when we hit a target now. So there's one final thing that I want to do, and that is show you how you can add your own gun. Maybe you don't like the default first person character gun, so I'll show you how you can replace and have your own gun instead. So to do that, let's first create a new folder for the gun that you want to have. So just call this gun, and then find a model of a gun you want. Just make sure that it is in the OBJ or FBX file format. Once you've done that, just drag your gun model into Unreal Engine. One important thing when you're dragging in your gun model, just make sure that it is a skeletal mesh, and then click import. Now, if I just go to the BP rifle, I'm just going to click Control B to go to its folder. Just right click on it and click duplicate, and just call this custom gun head inside here. And as you can see in this blueprint, when we overlap this sphere collision, what we're basically doing is going to our first person character and attaching this gun to the grip point inside of the first person character mesh. So what we need to do, since we're adding our own gun, is we need to make our own custom socket location for our gun to latch onto. So if we go to our first person character, just select his arms and go to the SK mannequin arms, and just double click and open it up. And what you want to do is go to preview animation and preview the idle animation, just so we know how they're going to be when they're holding the gun. Just pause the animation, and we want to go to the middle, this one, middle _01 _R. Once we're here, just right click and go add socket, and just call this our custom gun 1. And then once we're here, just right click and go add preview asset, and then select the gun model that you imported. So your gun model may be very big, so what we're going to do is just adjust it. So we can use this select and translate objects, select and rotate objects, and select and scale objects to basically manipulate it so that our gun is small and fits in our player's hand. You may also just want to go to window and go details, just so you can see this details panel of its location, rotation, and scale here. So I'm just going to adjust my gun so it fits roughly in my player character's hands. It's very big. This is very big. So under the relative scale, I'm just going to make this 0.01 in all axes. Okay, and that's a bit better. It's a bit bent, so I'm going to just rotate it. In order to have more precise rotation, movement, or scaling, just click here and click this. So the smaller the number, the more precision we're going to have over rotating it. So I'm just going to change this to be 5 and rotate my gun. And I'm also just going to select here and change the snapping to be 1 so I can move it really precisely. And I think that is about quite straight. So this will be where my gun will point or attach to. The animation doesn't really fit it, but I'm just showing how we change our guns. And then if we go to our custom gun variable, instead of having socket name grip point, we're going to change this to be the custom gun 01. So just change this custom gun, what did I call it? Custom gun 1. Okay, nice, and then go compile. And then one other thing, when we fire our projectiles, we do it by getting our skeletal mesh, which is the gun by default. And then we get the socket called ammo, and then we fire from this location. So what we need to do for our gun model that we just imported is head over to its skeletal mesh, select it, and go add socket, call the socket ammo, and then just manually move this to where we want the ammo to fire from your gun. So just move this here, and just go save. And then if we go to our custom gun, and if I just change this to be my custom gun, it's very big, and that is not okay. So what we need to do is just drag this sphere collision on top of the skeletal mesh, and then scale down your gun so that it fits inside of this box. And then under the event graph, before we attach our gun, just drag it here and look for set, scale, and we want to look for set worlds, scale 3D, skeletal mesh, and just change this to be 1, 1, and 1. That way when we attach our gun again, it has the correct scaling. And now if I could compile and go to my blueprints and drag in my custom gun and go play and pick it up, it attaches and I can shoot it. With this system, we can only have one gun because I didn't want to make it too complicated where we can basically have loads of guns which we can switch between. So we'll only have one gun for this project. And then what you can do now is basically design a level and place these target points basically all over the level, and then the player will have to collect their gun and then hunt down all the target points and shoot them down. So with that, that is how to create a beginner FPS game inside of Unreal Engine 5. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, if you could like and subscribe, it would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.